today will be about seeing how well the box wedge handles these big rounds. Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farm, and today I'm going to be delivering firewood. We're going to split some firewood, and then we're going to fire up the wood stove and make sure everything's good to go, get our first fire burning in the shop for this year. So the wood I'm delivering is these two totes right here. These totes are just a little bit less than 1/3 of a cord, and I get $65 for one tote of wood. That would work out to about $225 a cord. I'm going to be delivering it for the first time in my new dump trailer. So I'm probably always going to do firewood. We've got some woods on our property. There's always going to be trees coming down and trees that need dealt with. Plus, I just kind of like doing it. But it's not the most profitable thing in the world. When you look at the time it takes to cut down a tree, get it to your work site, get it cut into rounds, get it split, stack it, deliver it, all of this stuff. It's not the most profitable thing in the world. So I'm always looking for how can I do it easier or more efficient. So what I'm going to do today is something that probably 100 people have tried to do before, but I'm going to see how it works for me. Is I'm going to try to dump these totes into the dump trailer to limit the amount of times I have to touch it. Now, when this wood came off my splitter, it was stacked in here directly. So that was the only time I've handled it. I would prefer not to stack it into a trailer and then unstack it out of a trailer. So we're gonna try this system. I really don't know how this is gonna go. I've got high hopes. And I think I tried this exact same thing with my little John Deere tractor, and my memory's so bad I don't know exactly what happened with that test, but I'm pretty sure that it didn't work, was the main result. And I think that was just because that tractor couldn't lift high enough, couldn't get it up in the air with this much weight and tip the forks forward. I think it was just too small of a tractor. I think also, I have seen other people do this, but it's been a while. And I don't remember, but I think basically you go through this process and then only 1/3 of the wood or half of the wood falls out. You end up having to do part of it manually anyway. But I'm not going to assume it won't work until I try it. Okay, so that did what I said. I got about half the wood out. Now, this is still gonna be quicker and easier, but not 100%. Because it's definitely easier to knock this down in than to reach down into the bottom of this from the ground and then throw it all up. One solution is you could cut your front slot out bigger. When you cut it bigger, I've cut them different sizes. When you cut them bigger, you start losing your integrity of the cage and it has to hold its shape when you pick it up. The other solution is there's such a thing as a set of pallet forks that hydraulically rotates. I don't even know if this machine's big enough to handle that. And if you had a skid steer, and Mike Morgan was talking about this in one of his videos, that he's looking at getting one of those rotating pallet fork frames. If he does it, I'm looking forward to seeing how well it works and what it costs, how much firewood you'd have to deliver to determine that that was worth it or it's not worth it. Now probably if I just got a little bit braver, got this a little further up in and then shook it, it would take care of this. Maybe I'll try that on the next one. So a trailer this size with the wood thrown in loose and up even with the metal part of the rail should hold almost 2 cords. With it neatly stacked, you'd be at about 1 1/4 cords. And just thrown in here like this, you should be able to get 4 totes, and that looks about right. We've got 2 in there now. So I love this splitter, but to be honest, I haven't got to use it all that much yet. And that means I'm still figuring out the best routine for using it. So this is the Eastonmade 1222. It's an incredibly fast firewood splitter. I mean, it just busts out so much wood so quickly. The only problem with it is you then have to deal with the wood that comes off the front. If you've got a conveyor, problem solved. I don't have a conveyor, so that leaves me with a few options. And what I think might be ideal is to get like a big firewood bucket, or maybe even put the sides on the Eastonmade grapple and just park that under the end of this and catch the wood in it and then drive it over either to a wood pile or to stack. I thought maybe I could cut these totes in a way, and you could cut that tote off right here if you wanted loose firewood, but I'm just not sure if that's efficient or not to have the wood just pushing into this with no front on it, because that would work to fill it about halfway and then you're weakening your totes. So for now, I'm not going to cut my totes that way. I'm just going to stack it by hand and continue to look at the options. And it all depends. If you're doing loose firewood, you're not doing the totes, you can just have it push that pile out and then move your splitter back 3 feet, make another pile, move the splitter back, and just keep doing that. You don't have to restack this wood. A lot of the firewood channels, guys who are doing firewood every day and a lot more firewood than me, don't use these totes. It's an unnecessary part of the process, but for now, I'm gonna continue using the totes. Machines like this are all about efficiency, and to be efficient, ideally you have uniform material size. You order in logs that are between 8 and 14 inch diameter, and all your rounds are between 8 and 14 inches, and they're lined up, and you roll them through, and you do it the same way over and over again. That's not what I have. I've got all different sizes. I don't buy logs. My wood all comes out of my woods up on a rock hill, and I drag it all down here. So it's a little different every time. And this today will be about seeing how well the box wedge handles these big rounds. I know this splitter can split this big stuff, but I might have to switch to the straight wedge. All right, now my last 2 videos, I used other pieces of equipment to split big rounds. A big round like that, as heavy as it is a workout normally. It's a problem. But with this piece of equipment, we're eased right through it. It's so fast. no lifting. All you need is a kid to come over here and stack this wood. And the size of the pieces is great. That's how big I split. Some people split much smaller, but my theory is if I can grab the piece of the wood with one hand like this and not like struggle, but just easily handle it, that's the right size piece. And this right here is about the worst thing you can ever try to split. I mean, that's got 3 limbs coming together in one spot, and it's a big diameter. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's find out. Woo, dog! I didn't think it was going to split that. Let's see what happens if I flip it over. They're still dealing with that worst knot on the top. I'm going to raise the wedge up a little bit. Now, I'm not the most OCD guy in the world. If you guys have followed my channel, you know that I don't always keep things tidy and organized. But I am kind of a numbers guy. And I like the math side of the firewood and keeping track of how much I've split and how much it's worth and how long it took to split for a certain amount of wood. And since I don't do that much firewood compared to the guys who are running a real firewood business, I think these totes work pretty well for me. But I've been looking at some of the bigger firewood channels, or some of the channels who do firewood on a much larger scale than me, and I totally get why they might not want to use these totes anymore. A lot of these guys just pile the wood up and let it dry in piles and then scoop it up with a bucket. And that solves the same problem that the totes solve, which is trying to avoid handling the wood more than necessary. But stacking in these totes is definitely the bottleneck of the operation that you see right now. Because this machine can split the wood twice as fast as I can feed the machine and unstack the wood. Now, if you had 2 guys working at keeping this thing running, then it would feel more efficient to use the totes. And then I know exactly how much wood is in each tote and how much we've split, and I can move it from place to place. And I really like the idea of it. But doing this by myself, this machine is so much faster than my ability to run it. So that's where I think either a conveyor to split this wood loose and feed it loosely into the totes, or just to let it pile up. But the other reason I've been resistant to just leave my wood in a pile like In the Wood Yard does is it just feels to me like the wood would get all muddy and then I would be making a mess. That's just what I'm picturing. So I guess you get that bed of wood chips as the floor, and that kind of helps keep you out of the mud. But that's just been my thought process on it. So I haven't ironed all the bugs out of my process yet, and I have not done a time test yet to find out exactly how long it takes to split a cord of firewood. And those are the things I'm going to do this winter. But what I can tell you is, I come out fairly often and split a little bit of firewood. Usually I do one basket, and I'm doing something else that day, and then I split one basket of firewood. And that gives me enough progress that by the end of the year, I've split enough that I'm happy with it. Today, I did one full basket, one basket that was almost a full basket, and then the third basket was maybe a little less than half of a basket, and it did not feel like a burden. It felt so quick and easy. Splitting it was a lot less work than picking it up off the ground and stacking it in the totes. So if I decided that I didn't need to put my firewood in those totes anymore, firewood would become really easy, and I might go that route. I haven't decided. But for today, I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.